And the main reason I came to visit is their 20,000 gallon reef tank. This is an enormous reef tank. I've never seen a tank this size in my life in person. We're going to dive down into it. So this is the part you've been waiting for. Now, the curator, the guy who started this reef tank 17 years ago, is Joe Ayulo. Now, he wasn't there the day I went. It was an unscheduled visit, but his assistant, Noel, was there. So I had a great time talking to him, and we're going to hear from Noel right now. Hey, what's up, guys? So we're here with Noel with Long Island Aquariums. Joe is not here today on the weekend, so Noel's going to be helping us out, answering some of the questions that you guys may have about the reef tank. So Noel, just go ahead and give us a little brief review of this tank so far.
So this tank is 20,000 gallons. We've had it here at the Long Island Aquarium since we opened. We've been open for about 17 years now. Joe started this tank. Joe came from the New York Aquarium, where he had worked for several years, and started this aquarium with the hopes of having the largest live reef tank in the world, and we did for a long time.
When you said long time, how long this was the biggest tank?
I couldn't give you the exact number on that, but probably for about 8 or 9 years.
Okay, so what's the bigger one?
There's several now. There's one in Iceland. Then there's the California Academy of Sciences has a 117,000 gallon reef tank.
Oh, wow.
So they like to make a joke that their sump is the same size as our tank now.
Oh, really?
So, yeah,
but this is the biggest one in the East Coast.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, actually, Georgia Aquariums is pretty close.
How close?
I couldn't tell you for sure. I think it might be 30,000, but
we'll cut that part out.
Yeah. I'm not sure on that one.
Now, as far as corals go, any idea how many corals are in this tank right now? I know it's hard to keep track of.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. Joe puts so many corals in here on a weekly basis. He puts frags. He takes stuff out.
Yeah, it's also frags on the other side in the front.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at this giant acro colony here in the front, he fragged like 80 or 90 pieces off of that last week.
This is the one that we're looking at right now, right next to the...
where that yellow tang's in right now.
Okay.
Yeah, he fragged 80 or 90 pieces out of that. That's above the reef. But I know for sure we have 87 different species of fish in here right now. I can tell you that.
87. And which species will be the oldest one?
For coral or for fish?
Fish.
Fish?
Is it the purple tanks?
Purple tangs are pretty old. Some of the Vomingis have been in here for 12, 13 years. But yeah, probably the purples are some of the originals to this tank.
I heard they're almost like 18 to 19 years old, some of the purple tanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have some of those are original. Some of these are from Joe's tank too, when he used to have at home or in his garage. In our clownfish tank across, some of those clowns are 25 years old now.
The big anemone tank.
Yeah. So a lot of these fish are pretty old. A lot of the anthias are fairly new. We used to have a lot of bigger fish in here, thread fin snappers and things like that, that we actually took out so that we could put a lot of the smaller fish in.
Give more color to it.
More color, and then also my job here is actually I do aquaculture. So I bred the first ever anthias about 2 years ago. So we've been trying to focus on breeding a lot more of the smaller fish, a lot more of the anthias and the wrasses and stuff like that. So
I don't see too many clowns on this tank. Any particular reason?
Clowns? Well, he had the Nigrippies, which hang out back in the Magnificas back there.
Okay.
He kind of wanted to have this different than the clownfish tank because he has so many clowns in there. But also the Nigrippies are kind of one of his favorites, so he wanted those to kind of be displayed in here. There are a couple of Perculas in here, and that's just because we have them in tanks above, and they sometimes slip through, they jump into the overflow and get into the tank. So I don't think he's actually purposely put any of the Perculas in here.
Now let's talk about the anemone right up front.
Yeah.
What kind of anemone is this?
That's a Magnifica. And it's split from the main colony. If you look around the bend right here, there's a main colony of Magnifica right back there. And it actually split and crawled to the front here. And then recently we had that one in the front split and started going up the glass. And he eventually took that off. It was really cool to watch it go up the glass for a little while, but eventually, it was in the viewers.
Now, looking at this tank, there's barely any space in it. How do you guys do maintenance on this tank?
So Joe does all the maintenance on this tank. He actually gets in this tank about once a week. He's got a path around in different crevices and stuff like that. It's actually kind of fun to watch him. He's like a ballerina in there. He's been doing this to this tank for 17 years, so he knows every corner, every spot that he's made for himself. So it's pretty impressive to see him do that, and he does it quite well. Some of those spaces are really tight, and you think, Joe's not exactly the smallest guy.
Yeah.
I mean, so you look at him and you think, man, how do you fit in some of those spots? I mean, I couldn't fit in most of those spots, but so he goes in there. He goes in there once or twice a week. He goes with a freshwater hose and sprays out some detritus. He does some fragging, yeah, he goes in there and he'll do some fragging. He'll
now, what do you guys do
back
with the frags? Do you guys sell it? Or?
Yeah, so we actually have a company called Reef that sells out of the aquarium. They're a wholesaler, and so they'll frag it, and then we'll sell it through them, or we'll surplus to other aquariums, or we'll trade with wholesalers or things like that to get other animals for the aquarium. But yeah, Reef is the main one.
Do they have a website?
Yeah, you can go to
reefgen.com.
reefgen.com. You can go to Facebook, Instagram. They have on there. They sell some of the fish that I breed too. So
okay. Now, I was gonna ask, because this channel is about newer people getting into the reef tank hobby.
Oh, cool.
Now, what would you recommend for somebody fairly new into the reef tank hobby? What kind of corals they should focus on? What kind of fish they should focus on? Which ones to stay away from?
Yeah. Well, corals, softies are always a really great spot to start with in the hobby. Getting some Kenya tree or leathers or things like that. Zoas and yeah, and gorgonians. Any softies are a good place to start. LPS, stuff like hammers and stuff like that are pretty relatively hardy. I would stay away from acros until you really start getting into it. But,
save the SPS for later.
Yeah. Save the SPS till you know more what you're doing, and you really have gotten into it for a while. As far as fish go, anything aquacultured is really great to start out with because it's really hardy. It's also really sustainable to do when you're not really sure of what you're doing. clownfish, gobies. Those are all really hardy things. I really like Anthias a lot, but those are not something you want to start with. Those are something you want to wait until you're a little bit more established. They need to be fed more often.
How often do Anthias need to be fed?
I mean, ideally, if you could get them fed 4 or 5 times a day. Smaller feeds, they don't need to necessarily be fed big feeds, but like with besides the reef tank, a lot of the smaller tanks, I'm going through, once an hour and feeding them some pellets or some cyclops or some live plankton or whatnot.
Now, by now, for this tank, I'm sure it's going to be hard for you guys to feed them like live food. So are they trained to eat flakes and dry foods? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So we feed this tank about 4 times a day.
Okay.
So right when we get here in the morning and we're doing our morning checks, we go up and we'll feed them some pellets and flakes. And then about now, or around here in the afternoon, we do a big mysis feed, and then we do several cyclops feeds, frozen cyclops throughout the day.
Now, the mysis you guys feed them, is it freeze-dried or just live?
It's frozen. Yeah, it's frozen. Also, when Joe does really big feeds, so on his weekends, I'm covering his stuff, so I feed whenever I get the chances. But when Joe's here, he does really heavy feeds. He feeds tons of cyclops, tons of PE mysis, Hikari mysis. He's doing sand eels. He's doing krill. He's doing a bunch of stuff. But generally, I don't do those on the weekends because when you do a big feed, you got to do a big water change that day. And so I try to do as little water changes when he's not here as possible.
Now, speaking of water changes,
Yep.
How often do you guys do water changes?
So we do a water change basically once a week. We do roughly 10% once a week, but we do a backwash every other day because we have 2 sand filters on here. And that's to keep the pressure down and to stir it up because those get pretty clogged with detritus. But we usually do a freshwater backwash when we do that. So that kind of cleans it out, stirs it out and kills a lot of the bad bacteria in there. But yeah, about 10% for water changes.
10%, my math is pretty bad. How many gallons would that be?
About 2,000 each week, give or take a few.
How long does it take to do a water change of 2,000 gallons?
Actually, not too long. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on which pumps Joe's using to backwash it out, because we have pretty extensive pumps on this tank.
I see. Speaking of pumps, I see the flow is pretty consistent, and it looks like it's coming from all around.
Yeah.
What kind of power heads are that you guys are using here?
So we have a prop unit in the left corner of the tank, which is run off of, I forget the exact horsepower, but I want to say a 3 horsepower pump. We also have in the back right corner of the tank a Hydro Wizard, which is a German prop unit. And then run across the front of the tank, we have, I think, a dozen Sea Swirls. And then we also have
Sea Swirls are running out of, actually, not a lot of people use the Sea Swirls anymore.
No, they're pretty old school. Joe's pretty old school about his stuff. But they work well. I don't even know where he would get a replacement. I don't know if they still sell those very, very regularly in the hobby. But and then we have the Carlson surge device, which I can show you in a few minutes above, and that goes off about every 6 minutes. It dumps 300 gallons of water into the tank and creates a big surge for the corals.
Now, looking at those acroporas on the top left corner, it looks like they're about to stick out of the water.
Yeah.
You guys are going to have to frag them eventually, I guess? Or?
Yeah, so what Joe does is about once a month, he goes in and he frags all of those corals down, like almost to the bare bone. You know, he frags them down pretty significantly and then just lets them grow back and continually does that. It takes about a month. Maybe 2, and then they're already back up. Yeah,
that is
they grow pretty quick.
Pretty significant growth for acroporas in a month.
Yeah.
Now, as far as dosing goes, what do you guys dose? You dose this tank or no?
Yeah, so we do several things. Joe does magnesium from ESV. He does calc. We dose calcwasser each day. We do about 2 deli cups. He doses lanthanum chloride, trace elements from ESV. What else do we dose? Iron we dose into the tank. All in pretty significant amounts, Something that, you would do in a regular 300-gallon reef tank, you would do 3 or 4 mils. Joe does 300 to 400 mils, And we can go above the tank here in a minute. I'll show you that. You can get some video of all that stuff too.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So you guys have 2 protein skimmers. So the big one, how many gallon does that? How many?
That's 300 gallons.
That's 300 gallons.
Yeah.
And the smaller one is?
It's probably maybe 100 gallons.
100 gallons.
The base there.
Now, do you guys run dry skimming and wet skimming, or just both?
Both, yeah.
So which one does the dry skimming? The smaller one,
The
and
smaller,
the bigger one
yep.
does the wet skimming?
Yep.
Okay. And I see you guys have some beautiful frags in the back here. Very, very beautiful hammers.
Yeah, this is just, so these tanks are all kind of serve a couple different purposes. One, Joe likes to go to his frag swaps. He likes to go to Macna, all that. He always gets little frags. Obviously, we can't put the frags into the tank, so he grows them out in these troughs and these tanks, and then plants them into the reef. The other purpose is anytime he frags anything out of the reef tank, we actually have a bunch of troughs in another part of the building that we use for reef gen. But before we move any of the coral frags from the main reef to there, they go into like a hospital trough to recover for a few days on the same system before we move them. Gives them a few days to really get that growth back. Up and then dumps.
About 300 gallons?
About 300 gallons, yeah.
It looks amazing from up top. It's a whole other
it's a whole
experience.
Well, yeah, you can notice that Joe has a lot of corals that you can't see from the public view.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's just because over time he doesn't have any place left.
There's no space left. Yeah.
And he still wants to get new stuff, so he puts corals, but also some of it's just self-fragging, which is a fascinating thing to see from a biological standpoint. That, some of these monkeys and stuff like that drop a piece
and they just
start
growing. Yeah,
growing.
I see some smaller ones all the way in the bottom.
Yeah.
You can see from the front a little bit. There's some that floated all the way over there. I'm like, it's amazing. I thought you guys did it yourself, but you're telling me they frag on their own.
Yeah, or a fish knocks into them, or
okay.
Just like on a real reef.
So let's talk about the lights. So how many watts?
1,000 watts.
Each or all together?
Each.
Okay.
Each.
How many LEDs does he have right now?
He's got 4. He's got the 3 cannons, which are max specs, I believe.
Okay.
And then he's got that pendant one over there, which is over there in the corner. I can't remember the company off the top of my head, but he's got that one, and those 2. And they're all companies that are trying to test their lights on tanks these big, They have a market for that, so they're trying some prototypes on our tank.
So you guys, this is like the guinea pig section.
Yeah.
Now at this point, I was outside the tank, and Noel did the daily feeding. As you can see, bunch of mice and shrimp all over the tank, and it's an amazing view. Just not everybody gets to experience this. If you go around this time, I believe it was at this time, I think it was around 4 o'clock, I'm assuming, probably 4 o'clock. That's when they did the last feeding. So as you can see, it's right there. I'm gonna shut up. I know you guys want to watch this tank, so a couple more minutes I'm gonna let you guys enjoy this view, and after that we'll get to the next exhibits that I covered, and I'll let you know more details about it at that time. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video clips. I know I enjoyed it. So we're gonna move down to the rest of the exhibits. So they also have, as you can see, it's a long tentacle, long tube anemone. I'm sorry, it's a tube anemone. The video doesn't do it justice. If you look at it live, the color just pops and it is mesmerizing. It's very slow. As you can see, the movements are really slow, and they're very beautiful. I'm thinking I might get one for my tank if I can locate one. So if you guys know anybody or anywhere I can buy these tube anemones from, just let me know, because I am looking to get one. And I'm gonna quickly go over the rest of the exhibits they have. They're gonna be really short, but I'm just gonna give you guys a glimpse of what to expect. They also have sun coral tank, a tank full of sun corals. I'm looking to get a sun coral as well. I heard even though they're named sun coral, they're actually non-photosynthetic, if I'm correct. They don't really need direct sunlight to make food. So they're the sun corals right there. And right after this, we're gonna look at the look at this gorgonian, it's beautiful. We're gonna look at the algae tank, a tank dedicated just to algae. So here we go. We're gonna shift to the algae tank view right now. And as you can see, this tank is infested with all types of algae. It's a really interesting tank just to dedicate it to algae. I mean, if you look at my tank, you'll see algae all over it. You can see it's starfishes all over, algae growing to insane amounts. I'm sure they don't have to do too much maintenance to grow algae, just bad water, high phosphates, and you're good to go, I guess. So after the algae tank, they also have, let's see what tank we're going to look at after this algae tank. The discus tank. Even though I'm not into freshwater, I did capture some of the freshwater exhibits they have, and I really like the discus tank. I heard they're very popular in the freshwater community. Never got into it myself, but when I looked at them, they look really cool. I was kind of interested in that. And as you can see, it's a lionfish tank, a predator tank. These lionfishes look vicious and venomous. Let's see what other exhibits we have. I think the piranha tank I covered right after it. Let's see the piranha tank. I wish in the piranha tank they had a feeding option that they would feed, and you can see how crazy they go. So as you can see, the piranhas right there, and we're gonna look at a planted tank. Freshwater planted tank. It looks like it's been growing for a while. It looks really good, very natural. And after this, we're going to look at their shark tank and the Atlantis exhibit. The sharks look amazing. It's a gigantic tank with shark, and they have a shark dive as well option. I think you got to pay extra during a certain time of the day. They put you in a shark cage, and you just drop the cage in the water, and you can look at the shark from inside the cage under the water. It's a good experience if you want to take advantage of it. So guys, I had a great experience at Long Island Aquarium. I do really recommend, if you're in the area, definitely go visit them. If you have any questions about the aquarium or the exhibits, feel free to leave in the comments below. I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Other than that, just go to their website. All the information is there. They even have sleepover nights. So if you have kids and they want to sleep over, you can do that. With that being said, I'm going to end the video. Well, I'm going to end talking. The video will be running for another couple of minutes. We're going to go back to the reef tank, the 20,000 gallon reef tank. Overall, I want to give a great shout out to Long Island Aquarium for being hospitable, Noel for all his help and information and showing me around, giving me the private tour in the back. I highly appreciate it. Sorry, Joe, I missed you. I didn't catch you when you were there, but maybe next time I visit, I'll have an opportunity to interview Joe Aiello. So guys, that being said, I'm gonna leave you guys alone. Enjoy the rest of the video, and until next time, happy reefing.